Detective Ryan Callahan had learned to anticipate the unexpected in his 15 years on the force, but nothing could have prepared him for the shrill ring of his phone at 2 a.m. The room was dark, the only illumination the pale glow of the city through his window. He rubbed his eyes and checked the time, 2:03 a.m. The caller ID flashed a number he didn't recognize, and instinctively he reached for the receiver, his mind already calculating every possible emergency that could demand his attention at this hour. "Callahan," he answered, his voice steady but edged with sleep. On the other end, a familiar trembling voice caught him off guard. "Ryan, it's me," said Mia, his high school sweetheart, the woman he had loved and lost, whose name still carried a strange, aching weight in his chest. His heart skipped a beat, a mixture of surprise and alarm constricting his chest. "Mia? It's 2 in the morning. What's wrong?" he asked, trying to mask the tension creeping into his voice. There was a pause, filled only with the sound of shallow breaths. When Mia finally spoke, her words were fragmented, trembling with fear. It's about the kids, Ryan. Something's happened. I don't know what to do. I need you." Her voice cracked, and in that moment, all professional detachment slipped from him. Duty and past emotions collided, leaving him momentarily unbalanced. He knew he couldn't ignore her, not now. Whatever had happened, she needed him, and he was the only one she could reach. Ryan swung his legs over the side of the bed, grabbing his badge and holster from the nightstand. His apartment, usually a place of solace and quiet, now felt suffocating, heavy with anticipation. He called out into the empty room, but there was no answer. His partner slept soundly, unaware of the storm about to hit. Within minutes, he was in his car, gripping the steering wheel so tightly his knuckles whitened. Mia's voice echoed in his mind. "I don't know what to do. I need you." Those words were both a call to action and a jolt to his heart. The drive across town was tense and silent, punctuated only by the occasional honk of distant traffic and the whine of his engine. Ryan's mind raced through possibilities: a domestic dispute, a crime, a medical emergency. Each scenario carried a different weight, but all demanded his focus and decisiveness. He rehearsed questions he might need to ask, scenarios in which he would need to intervene, and contingencies for protecting Mia and the children. All the while, memories of their past flickered unbidden. Late-night conversations, shared laughter, arguments resolved, and the love that had lingered even after they parted ways. Arriving at Mia's house, Ryan felt a surge of protective instinct. The street was quiet, the house illuminated only by a single flickering porch light. He approached cautiously, hand near his holster, eyes scanning for threats. As he reached the front door, Mia opened it, her face pale, eyes red from tears. She clutched her phone like a lifeline, her fingers trembling. "Ryan, thank God you're here," she whispered, stepping aside to let him in. He noticed immediately that the house felt off. There was an unnatural quiet, the kind that suggested more than a simple domestic mishap. Inside, Ryan followed Mia into the living room. The children's room doors were closed, and the faint hum of a baby monitor filled the space. Mia sank onto the couch, burying her face in her hands. Ryan knelt beside her, careful to maintain calm, though his mind churned with urgency. "Mia, tell me exactly what's happening," he said softly, his voice measured. She looked up, her eyes wide and frantic, and spilled the story in fragmented sentences, each word heavy with fear and guilt. There had been a break-in earlier, a confrontation with an unknown intruder, and now something was wrong, something she didn't fully understand and couldn't fix alone. Ryan listened, absorbing every detail, the timeline, the noises, the children's reactions. His training kicked in, cataloging evidence, noticing inconsistencies, formulating a plan. But beneath the professionalism, another current ran deep. Emotion, love, concern. and the shadow of everything they had once shared. Duty demanded he act decisively to protect the family before him. Love demanded he remain close, offering comfort and reassurance to Mia, whose trembling hands spoke louder than her words. The collision of these forces created a tension that pressed heavily on him, sharpening his focus while churning his heart. He checked the house carefully, starting with the children's rooms. The monitors revealed nothing out of place, but Ryan's instincts screamed that appearances could be deceiving. He motioned for Mia to remain seated while he surveyed the perimeter. Footsteps in the upstairs hallway, a slight creak of the floorboards, made him pause. Was it the house settling, or was someone still inside? Every fiber of his being was alert, every sense heightened. He couldn't risk panic. He needed control, calm, and precision. His training merged seamlessly with the emotional undercurrent driving him forward. Protect at all costs, no matter the personal cost. After clearing the house, Ryan returned to the living room where Mia was visibly trembling, her hands clasped together tightly. "It's okay," he said gently, placing a hand on hers. "They're safe, Mia. I've checked. I'll make sure of it." Her relief was palpable, but so was the tension. The threat wasn't over, not entirely. Someone had entered the home. Someone had endangered her and the children. Ryan knew that the hours ahead would require careful investigation, follow-up, and vigilance. Yet in this moment, he allowed himself a small acknowledgement of the deeper truth. The call at 2 a.m. had shattered more than sleep. It had shattered the boundary between past and present, duty and desire. As he sat with Mia, listening to her recount details he hadn't yet pieced together, Ryan felt a familiar, bittersweet pang. Their history was tangled with unspoken feelings, decisions made under pressure, and love complicated by circumstance. He had once walked away for what he thought was the right choice, but now, in the quiet tension of a house threatened and a woman terrified, he realized that love could not be entirely silenced by time or distance. Duty had brought him here, but love, undeniably, had kept him rooted in the room, watching over the family he had once vowed to protect. The night stretched on with careful vigilance. Ryan maintained a presence both protective and attentive, asking questions, making calls, and ensuring that backup was on the way. Every moment revealed more about the situation. Every small sound from the house kept him alert. Yet amid the tension, the quiet intimacy of being there with Mia, of witnessing her fear and vulnerability, created an undercurrent of connection he hadn't anticipated. Their past, once a source of conflict, now seemed inseparable from the responsibilities of the present. Duty and love were no longer distinct. They were intertwined in the fragile safety of the moment. By 4 a.m., local backup had arrived and the immediate threat seemed neutralized. Though Ryan knew investigations were far from over, he sat with Mia on the couch, exhausted but unrelenting in his attentiveness. "You did the right thing calling me," he aid softly. "I can't promise the world is safe yet, but I promise I'll see this through." She leaned slightly against him, silent, trusting, and the depth of emotion was unspoken but palpable. The 2 a.m. call had shaken him, had forced him to navigate the collision of professional duty and personal attachment, and yet in the shared quiet, he realized that some truths, love, responsibility, protection, were inseparable, no matter how late the hour. The morning light filtered through the blinds, but Ryan's world remained tinged with tension. He hadn't slept. The events of the early hours kept replaying in his mind. Each sound, each movement in the house, each tear on Mia's face was burned into his memory. Over coffee in the kitchen, Mia recounted everything she could remember. Strange noises, misplaced objects, fleeting shadows, but the story was fragmented, and her anxiety hung in the air like a heavy fog. Ryan listened intently, absorbing every detail, aware that even the smallest clue could matter in piecing together what had happened. It wasn't just the call that haunted him. Seeing Mia again after so many years stirred emotions he thought he had buried. He remembered their shared past, late-night conversations, laughter spilling across the streets of their old neighborhood, and promises made in the naive hope of forever. Life had pulled them apart. College, careers, choices neither could control. But the bond lingered. Now it pressed against the boundaries of professionalism. Duty demanded he focus on the investigation, but love demanded he be near her, protect her, and soothe her fears. The collision of these forces left him simultaneously resolute and unmoored. The children, Ella and Sam, peeked out from the living room doorway, curious and wary. Ryan softened, forcing a smile. "You two are okay. Everything's going to be fine," he assured them. The words were more than reassurance. They were a promise rooted in a sense of responsibility he had not expected to feel so intensely. As he observed them, he realized how much had changed. These children, innocent and trusting, were the focal point of his protective instincts, intertwining with his past feelings for Mia. Suddenly, the case was no longer just a professional matter. It was personal in a way that demanded both caution and courage. Ryan began to organize the house, methodically checking doors, windows, and locks, while Mia followed hesitantly, trusting but uneasy. Her presence was a balm and a reminder. Every glance reminded him of the life they might have shared if circumstances had been different. She was stronger than she appeared, but the fear etched on her face betrayed the strain she had endured alone. Ryan made a mental note to ensure not only the immediate security of the home, but also the emotional safety of its inhabitants. Protection, he realized, extended beyond physical boundaries. It meant creating a space where trust could exist again. As he examined the living room, Ryan's eyes caught something unusual, a small footprint in the dust by the back door. His instincts flared. "Mia," he said gently, pointing, "did you notice anyone outside last night?" She shook her head, panic flickering across her face. He bent to inspect the print, noting its size, the pattern, the direction it had traveled. It was fresh, a subtle but undeniable sign that the intruder might have returned or had been closer than they realized. The investigation, he knew, was far from over. Every detail mattered, every shadow could conceal danger. By mid-morning, Ryan had called in his team to secure the perimeter and begin formal questioning. While he worked, Mia stayed close, offering small observations she had made, sounds she had ignored, lights flickering unexpectedly, doors that had been ajar. Attention to detail, once playful and lively in their youth, now carried a seriousness born of necessity. Ryan found himself appreciating her clarity even as he grappled with the flood of old emotions. The past and present collided in sharp relief, and he realized that the connection they once shared was not easily erased. The children, initially cautious, began to relax slightly under Ryan's watchful eye. Sam clutched a small stuffed animal, while Ella fiddled with a broken puzzle piece. Ryan knelt beside them, letting them speak without pressure. "It's okay to be scared," he murmured, "but you're safe here. I won't let anything happen to you." The weight of the promise resonated in the room, merging his professional duty with his personal investment. Protecting these children, he realized, was inseparable from protecting Mia, and the act of safeguarding them reminded him why he had always felt so connected to her. As the day wore on, Ryan's investigation began to reveal more troubling possibilities. A neighbor had reported suspicious activity, a van parked nearby at odd hours, glimpses of someone watching the house. It was beginning to seem intentional rather than random, a calculated threat designed to unnerve or harm. Ryan's pulse quickened as he considered the implications. Whoever was responsible had knowledge of the family's routines, their vulnerabilities. Every protective measure he implemented carried heightened urgency. Each decision required precision, awareness, and a willingness to take calculated risks to ensure the safety of those he had come to care about deeply. Despite the looming danger, Ryan felt a subtle, comforting connection with Mia. They shared small moments, a shared glance over a report, a quiet exchange of reassurance, the way she leaned briefly into his shoulder as he explained a safety precaution. Love and duty, intertwined, challenging high. Ability to remain detached, but also deepening his resolve. He realized that personal feelings, when guided by professionalism and care, could enhance rather than hinder protective action. The stakes had never been higher, and yet the presence of someone he had once loved gave him a clarity he hadn't anticipated. Late afternoon brought a breakthrough. One of the team members discovered a tampered lock on the side door, confirming the presence of an intruder who had gained entry previously. Ryan's mind raced, calculating scenarios, questioning motives, and considering next steps. Mia watched him, wide-eyed, as he meticulously documented evidence, coordinated with his team, and created a plan for heightened security. The admiration in her gaze stirred emotions he had long tried to contain. This was not just professional responsibility. It was deeply personal, a collision of loyalty, love, and the need to protect. By evening, the house had been thoroughly secured, and temporary measures were in place to ensure no further unauthorized access. Ryan finally allowed himself a brief moment of reprieve, sitting with Mia in the living room, exhausted but alert. "You did the right thing calling me," he said softly. She nodded, her hand finding his. The gesture was small, yet it conveyed a multitude of unspoken emotions: relief, trust, lingering affection, and the quiet acknowledgement of shared history. The danger had forced them into a collaboration that blurred the lines between duty and desire, and both recognized the fragile power of that bond. As night fell, Ryan remained vigilant, aware that the intruder's identity and motive were still unknown. But in the quiet moments, he allowed himself to process the emotions that had surfaced: fear for the family, protectiveness over the children, and rekindled feelings for Mia. Shadows of the past were no longer distant. They were in the present, intertwined with professional obligations and personal longing. He realized that the 2 a.m. call had not only initiated an investigation but also reignited a connection he had believed lost to time. Before leaving to grab some rest, Ryan checked on the children one last time. Sam slept soundly, clutching his toy, while Ella was curled under a blanket, finally at peace. Mia watched him silently, eyes reflecting both gratitude and something unspoken, hope perhaps that the bond they once shared could withstand the current storm. Ryan understood then that duty and love were not mutually exclusive. They could coexist, albeit with tension and challenge. Protecting the family was both his professional obligation and a deeply personal mission. The events of the day had proven that some connections, no matter how long dormant, could never be entirely severed. The next morning, Ryan returned to the house with a heightened sense of vigilance. Though the previous night had brought temporary calm, the discovery of the tampered lock reminded him that the danger was far from over. He moved deliberately, checking every entry point, noting the placement of security cameras and coordinating with his team to monitor the surrounding streets. His professional instincts, honed over years on the force, clashed with the emotional turbulence he felt in Mia's presence. Every glance, every soft word from her stirred something deep within him, complicating the clear-cut decisions he had to make. Mia tried to remain calm, but the tension in her posture betrayed the fear she had carried since the 2 a.m. call. She followed Ryan as he examined the property, offering details and observations. "I saw someone parked across the street last night. Just for a few minutes, then they drove away," she said quietly, glancing nervously over her shoulder. Ryan nodded, noting her information. It was subtle, almost inconsequential. But in his line of work, these small details often led to breakthroughs. He silently praised her focus despite the circumstances. Her presence of mind could prove invaluable in uncovering the threat. Ryan's thoughts, however, kept drifting to the past, to the history he shared with Mia. The way she moved, the tone of her voice, and the vulnerability she now displayed reminded him of why he had once loved her. He forced himself to push these emotions aside, focusing instead on the immediate danger. The intruder's intentions were unknown, and every precaution mattered. Still, the collision of professional responsibility and lingering affection made him aware of just how complicated protecting someone could be when your heart was involved. By mid-morning, he had begun cross-referencing neighborhood reports with surveillance footage from nearby stores. A pattern started to emerge. The intruder had likely been watching the family for days, learning routines and testing vulnerabilities. The calculated nature of the threat made Ryan's protective instincts sharpen. Whoever was responsible was patient, deliberate, and dangerous. The realization deepened his resolve. He could not allow Mia or the children to face harm again, and he understood that staying emotionally close, despite the complications it created, was now part of his duty. Mia sat at the kitchen table, wringing her hands while Ryan laid out his observations. "We need to consider all possibilities," he said carefully. "Someone familiar with the house, someone who knows your routines. It's possible this is personal." Her eyes widened at the suggestion, and Ryan saw the fear flicker across her face. It wasn't only the intruder she feared. It was the implication that someone close could threaten her family. The collision of love and duty became starkly clear. Ryan had to shield her physically and emotionally, even as memories and unresolved feelings complicated his focus. The children, meanwhile, were tentative but observant. Ella peeked from behind the couch, curious about Ryan's meticulous notes and maps of the neighborhood. Sam clutched his toy, nervously following Ryan's movements. Ryan knelt beside them, offering calm reassurance. "You're safe. I'll make sure nothing happens to you," he said. His voice carried authority but also warmth, bridging the professional and personal roles he was now forced to inhabit. The children's trust became a motivating force, intertwining with his concern for Mia and strengthening his determination to uncover the truth. Later, Ryan accompanied Mia to her car, checking it thoroughly for any signs of tampering. Every lock, every handle, every corner of the vehicle received his attention. Mia flinched at his thoroughness, but allowed him to inspect the car, understanding the necessity. Their proximity reignited subtle tensions, the shared history, the intimacy of collaboration, and the unspoken feelings both still carried. Ryan noticed the slight tremor in her hand as she gripped the steering wheel, and he felt the protective surge that had always defined him in her presence. Love and duty collided more intensely with each passing moment. By late afternoon, a breakthrough arrived in the form of an anonymous tip. Surveillance footage from a nearby convenience store captured a vehicle circling the neighborhood multiple times over the past week, and the license plate had been partially obscured. Ryan's heart pounded as he reviewed the footage. The driver's pattern was methodical, and the repeated presence near Mia's house suggested a deep-seated obsession. It wasn't a random threat. It was targeted, specific, and potentially escalating. The realization intensified his urgency and the stakes of every decision he had to make moving forward. Ryan immediately contacted his team, outlining the discovery and coordinating a strategy for monitoring the neighborhood overnight. While the officers set up stakeouts and coordinated with additional support, Ryan stayed close to Mia and the children. He knew the danger was immediate, and proximity was necessary to protect them effectively. Every glance, every reassurance he offered was tinged with personal emotion, a blend of residual love and professional responsibility that he could neither ignore nor suppress. The two spheres had merged, creating an unrelenting pressure that fueled his vigilance. That evening, Mia approached him hesitantly. "Ryan, I don't know what I would do without you," she admitted, her voice low. There was a vulnerability in her eyes, a silent plea for protection and support. Ryan's chest tightened. "You won't have to find out," he said firmly. "I'm here. I'll make sure you and the kids are safe." The sincerity in his voice carried weight, and Mia's expression softened, hinting at the complex interplay of trust, gratitude, and the lingering emotions between them. Their shared history had deepened the present tension, blending affection with necessity. As night fell, Ryan coordinated with his team to maintain continuous surveillance, staying close to Mia and the children. Each creak, each shadow, each distant noise triggered heightened alertness. Yet amid the tension, there was a quiet intimacy, small moments of shared smiles, subtle touches of reassurance, and unspoken acknowledgement of the bond that had endured despite years apart. Love and duty had collided, complicating every action and decision, but also reinforcing the importance of his vigilance. The night would be long, the threat persistent, and Ryan knew that his resolve and attention could make the difference between safety and catastrophe. By 2 a.m., the horror that had first brought chaos into their lives, Ryan remained vigilant, strategically positioned to respond to any threat. The house was secure, the children asleep, and Mia finally resting after hours of tension. Yet he could not relax, not fully. The intruder remained unknown, the danger real, and the emotional stakes personal. Every decision, every action was intertwined with his feelings for Mia, a collision of love and duty that left him simultaneously focused and vulnerable. In that quiet tension, Ryan understood the depth of his responsibility to protect the family before him and to navigate the complex emotions their reunion had ignited. The next day began with an intense energy Ryan hadn't felt in years. The surveillance footage and anonymous tip had given him the first real lead, and he knew that the intruder was no longer just a shadowy threat, but someone who could be identified and confronted. His team moved with precision, reviewing the footage frame by frame, checking vehicle registrations, and cross-referencing local criminal records. Ryan's mind raced with possibilities. The intruder could be someone with a vendetta, an obsessed stranger, or someone connected to Mia's past. The stakes were high, and every detail mattered. Mia stayed nearby, quietly assisting where she could without interfering. Her anxiety was palpable, but her determination mirrored Ryan's own. She wanted answers, closure, and most importantly, the assurance that her family would be safe. Every glance she cast toward him was filled with unspoken gratitude and a flicker of the affection they had once shared. Ryan forced himself to maintain professionalism, yet he could not ignore the surge of emotions her presence stirred. Love and duty were intertwined in ways that complicated every decision he made. By midday, the breakthrough arrived. A partial plate number led to a registered vehicle, and further investigation revealed it belonged to someone who had previously lived in the neighborhood, a man with a record of harassment and trespassing. Ryan's pulse quickened. This was no longer a vague threat. It was tangible, provable, and immediate. He immediately coordinated with his team to track the individual's current location and confirm whether he still posed a danger to Mia and the children. Every move had to be calculated. One wrong step could escalate the situation. While the investigation intensified, Ryan remained close to the house, maintaining a presence that reassured both Mia and the children. Ella and Sam were increasingly aware of the tension, asking quiet questions and seeking reassurance. Ryan knelt beside them, keeping his voice calm, his tone authoritative yet warm. "Everything is under control," he said. "We're going to make sure no one can hurt you." Their small nods of trust were a reminder of why he was doing this, why he had returned at 2 a.m., and why he now refused to leave their side. Duty and love had merged into a singular purpose: protection. As the afternoon wore on, Ryan traced the suspect's movements, coordinating with local authorities to stage surveillance near his known locations. Every call, every update, every piece of information had to be precise. Yet amid the professional urgency, Ryan couldn't ignore the undercurrent of personal emotion. Mia's presence, her trust, and her subtle reliance on him had reignited feelings he thought were long buried. He realized that protecting her now was not just about duty. It was about the heart, about a bond that had never fully faded despite years of separation. The breakthrough came late in the afternoon. The suspect had been spotted at a local convenience store, seemingly unaware of the surveillance. Ryan and his team moved carefully, coordinating a strategy to apprehend him without endangering bystanders or alerting the target prematurely. Ryan's mind was a whirlwind of plans, contingencies, and rapid calculations. Yet beneath the tactical precision, his heart beat faster for another reason: the thought of finally removing this threat from Mia's life, restoring her sense of safety, and perhaps creating space for the bond between them to heal. Mia remained in the house, with Ryan checking in frequently. He walked her through the steps, reassuring her of the precautions in place. "You're safe," he said softly, his hand brushing hers in a fleeting, careful gesture. She looked up at him, eyes glistening with a mix of relief and emotion. For a moment, the weight of the day, the fear, the tension, the uncertainty, lifted slightly. Ryan knew he couldn't afford distraction, yet he allowed himself to recognize the intimacy of the moment. Their past had returned, intertwined with the present, and he could not ignore it. By early evening, the team had confirmed the suspect's identity: a man with prior convictions for stalking and trespassing, recently released, and apparently fixated on the neighborhood. The evidence was strong, actionable, and conclusive. Ryan formulated a plan with precision, ensuring that the apprehension would be swift and controlled. He briefed the team on tactical approaches, escape contingencies, and safety measures, all while remaining acutely aware of the emotional stakes for Mia. The confrontation was inevitable, but preparation would minimize risk. As night fell, Ryan remained vigilant. He stationed himself within sight of the house, eyes scanning the quiet streets, ears tuned to every sound. Mia and the children had been secured indoors, and precautions were in place, but Ryan's instincts screamed that nothing could be taken for granted. Each passing moment intensified the weight of responsibility. This was more than a obligation. It was deeply personal. The collision of love and duty reached its peak as he contemplated the confrontation to come. He was prepared to face danger head-on, not only to protect the family, but also to honor the trust and affection that had quietly endured between him and Mia. Around midnight, the suspect made a move. Ryan, in coordination with his team, approached strategically, ensuring a controlled environment. The suspect attempted to flee when confronted, but Ryan's preparation and tactical foresight prevented escalation. Within minutes, the man was apprehended, handcuffed, and in the custody of authorities. Relief surged through Ryan, tempered by the adrenaline that still coursed through his body. The immediate danger had been neutralized, and Mia and the children were safe. The 2 a.m. call that had initiated this ordeal had led to a successful resolution, but it had also revealed the complexity of emotions entangled with duty. Returning to the house, Ryan found Mia and the children waiting. Ella and Sam ran to him, hugging him tightly. Mia approached, her eyes filled with gratitude and something deeper, something that spoke to shared history, resilience, and trust. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice catching. Ryan felt the collision of relief, affection, and professional satisfaction overwhelm him for a brief moment. He knew the threat was neutralized, but the emotional resonance of the night, the fear, the tension, and the reaffirmation of their bond, was as significant as the professional victory. In the quiet that followed, Ryan and Mia sat together, children finally asleep, discussing the events of the day and the steps to maintain safety in the future. They spoke openly, acknowledging the complexities of their emotions, the dangers they had faced, and the lingering connection between them. Ryan realized that the line between duty and love was not a boundary to be enforced, but a convergence to be navigated. Protecting Mia and the children had reinforced his feelings, and he understood that some bonds, once formed, endure challenges, danger, and time. By dawn, the household had returned to a tentative calm. Ryan felt a profound sense of accomplishment, but also an acute awareness of the personal stakes. The break-in had tested every aspect of his training, judgment, and emotional resilience. It had forced him to confront feelings he had long suppressed and to navigate the delicate balance between professional responsibility and personal attachment. Love and duty had collided in the most intense way, but the outcome, safety, resolution, and a rekindled bond had reaffirmed his sense of purpose and connection. The following days brought a sense of cautious relief. The immediate danger had passed, and the suspect was securely in custody. Yet Ryan knew that the emotional aftermath required as much attention as the professional resolution. Mia, though visibly calmer, carried the subtle tension of recent trauma, and the children were still adjusting to the idea that the threat was gone. Ryan remained close, balancing his role as protector with the unspoken pull of his lingering affection for Mia. Love and duty had collided, and now, in the quiet aftermath, he was faced with the choices that collision demanded. He spent mornings coordinating with local authorities, reviewing safety plans for Mia and the children, and arranging follow-up measures to ensure ongoing security. Yet in the moments between calls and reports, he found himself sitting with Mia on the porch, cups of coffee in hand, speaking softly about everything except the danger that had brought them together. Their conversation drifted from shared memories of school days to favorite movies, then to the children's laughter and quirks. For a time, the world seemed to shrink to just the three of them, Ryan, Mia, and the fragile bond they were nurturing amidst chaos. Mia watched him carefully, noting both his attentiveness and the subtle signs of emotional conflict she had once known well. "Ryan," she said quietly one morning, "I don't know how I would have managed without you." Her voice trembled slightly, not from fear this time, but from gratitude and something deeper. Ryan felt his chest tighten. "You won't have to," he replied. "I'm not going anywhere." In that simple exchange, years of separation, unspoken emotions, and mutual care converged. The boundaries between duty and desire blurred, and Ryan realized that his commitment to protecting Mia and her family now included emotional presence, not just professional vigilance. The children, too, were beginning to show signs of resilience. Ella laughed freely while helping Ryan with small tasks around the house, and Sam's curiosity and energy returned as he tested the limits of the newly secured environment. Ryan took small moments to kneel beside them, to listen, and to engage in play. Every smile, every hesitant display of trust, reminded him why the early morning call had shaken him so profoundly. Protection was no longer a matter of responding to immediate danger. It had evolved into creating a stable, nurturing environment where love, safety, and growth could coexist. Over the following week, Ryan coordinated with social services to ensure ongoing support for Mia and the children. He arranged counseling, safety workshops, and community resources to provide a buffer against future threats. At the same time, he allowed himself to acknowledge the personal stakes, the affection he still held for Mia, the desire to protect her beyond professional obligation, and the understanding that some connections could not be severed by time or circumstance. Love and duty, once opposing forces, now operated in tandem, guiding his decisions and actions. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Ryan and Mia walked the children to a nearby park. The warm glow of streetlights reflected in the soft laughter of Ella and Sam. Mia glanced at Ryan, a silent question in her eyes. What now, after the danger had passed? Ryan understood the question's weight. He could not rewrite the past, nor could he promise that the future would be free of challenges, but he could offer stability, vigilance, and a renewed presence in her life. He took her hand gently, squeezing it with quiet assurance. "We take it one step at a time," he said. "Together." Mia's eyes softened, reflecting relief, gratitude, and the quiet rekindling of a bond that had never fully disappeared. "Together," she echoed, a tentative smile touching her lips. The children, sensing the subtle reconciliation, laughed and played, their trust in both adults growing with each passing moment. For Ryan, the 2 a.m. call that had first shaken him now felt like a turning point, not only in the protection of the family, but in the restoration of a relationship long thought to be closed. Duty had brought him to the scene, but love had compelled him to stay. As the nights passed, Ryan maintained a careful balance between professional vigilance and personal involvement. He monitored security systems, coordinated with law enforcement, and stayed attuned to the emotional needs of the household. Yet he also allowed moments of intimacy, of quiet laughter and shared memories, to unfold naturally. Mia, once burdened by fear and uncertainty, began to relax, leaning on his presence without hesitation. The children, too, thrived in this stable environment, learning that trust could be rewarded and safety could coexist with warmth and care. Weeks later, during a quiet evening at home, Mia turned to Ryan. "I've been thinking, maybe we should stop pretending our lives can be separate anymore," she said softly, her hand brushing against his. Ryan's pulse quickened, but his response was steady, measured with the certainty that comes from both experience and heart. "I've never stopped thinking about us," he admitted. "And after everything, I realize some things are worth risking everything to protect." In that moment, the collision of love and duty resolved into clarity. They had survived danger together, and now they could choose to embrace the bond that had endured. The children, sensing the emotional shift, gathered around them, their laughter filling the room. Ryan knelt beside them, embracing each in turn. "We're a team," he said, his voice firm and warm, "and we look out for each other." The words were simple, yet profound. Protection, love, and family had merged into a single, unshakable principle. The events of the 2 a.m. call, which had initially brought fear and uncertainty, had led to a renewed connection, trust, and hope that extended beyond the immediate danger. Months later, the household had settled into a rhythm of stability and joy. Ryan continued his professional duties, but his personal life had expanded in ways he had never anticipated. He and Mia rebuilt their relationship on the foundation of shared experience, trust, and mutual care. The children flourished under this environment, their laughter and curiosity a constant reminder of the fragile yet resilient nature of life. The memory of the 2 a.m. call remained, not as a source of fear, but as a turning point, an event that had tested boundaries, revealed truths, and rekindled love. As Ryan reflected on the journey, he realized that the collision of love and duty had been inevitable. Neither could exist in isolation when faced with human vulnerability, trust, and emotional connection. The call at 2 a.m. had shaken him, forced him to confront past emotions, and demanded the utmost vigilance and courage. In the aftermath, he had discovered a profound truth. Protecting someone can be both a professional responsibility and a personal choice, and sometimes the two are inseparable. On a quiet evening, as Ryan watched Mia tuck the children into bed, he felt a sense of fulfillment that transcended professional success. Love had guided him as much as duty had, and in their intersection, a new beginning had emerged. He approached Mia, gently taking her hand. "We've survived a lot," he said softly, "and now we have a chance to build something stronger." Mia's eyes glistened with unshed tears, her smile radiant and full of hope. "Together," she whispered, echoing the words that had become their silent promise. Ryan nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility and affection intertwine, knowing that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them as one. The 2 a.m. call that had once shaken him had transformed his life, revealing that duty and love were not opposing forces, but complementary threads in the fabric of human connection. It had tested courage, patience, and emotional resilience, but it had also rekindled trust, deepened love, and restored a sense of purpose. In the quiet of that evening, as the house settled into calm, Ryan realized that the choice to stay to protect, and to love was the most profound decision he had ever made, and one that would continue to shape their lives for years to come.